Okay, we're live and the debate is still going on a little bit over there, but I can't be up all damn night.
So Q&A part.
So the cold slab thing, there was some paper where they found some some X-ray or something. I don't know how the hell they got the information, but there was a big slab and they had a really good reason for it. But what I never understood is like Standing thinks for some reason that this slab broke off a million years ago or something, and it's descending at the rate of that your fingernail grows, and it should have been melted by now. That's their argument, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about. None of that. I mean,
yeah, if it were supposedly, but the problem is that's not what the technical work says. In fact, everything about it, I did in the paper itself on the geochemistry of those rocks and why it was perfectly understandable they were doing what they were doing deep down in the mantle.
Yeah, and how do they know when the thing broke off? I mean, I don't quite understand that.
I don't know. Well, actually, it has to do with how long it takes stuff to move in the mantle. Actually, that's another area with this new work that's doing 3D modeling of the subduction material in the deep crust and below the crust. And they're able to actually work out the chronology of these things in much greater detail now than they were just a few years ago. So it's all cutting edge technical literature, of which, of course, the creationists are not contributing.
Oh, we lost audio. Okay.
There we go. I was having weird audio issues, so I tried coming back in.
How's it now?
I seem to be doing good.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I want to every now and then StreamYard screws me every now and then. This wash machine sound, and I have no idea why or what it's about.
I hear that too. It sounds like a beach. Sounds nice.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah.
Oh shit! That means they screwed me again. So that's coming from me.
Yes, if you're recording in a phone booth next to the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah. Okay, they're doing it again. You bastards! And it lasts for like 2 or 3 days, and then it goes away for like a week, and then it comes back in again. And I have no idea why. If I leave the stream, it'll quit. Let me know if you can hear it when I mute.
I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah. Hello, David.
Yeah, I can't hear it.
I'll stay muted as much as I can. That's horrible.
I think it's relaxing. But yeah, on that cold slab stuff, I would.
Yeah, it's not a problem. Well, various people will have different hearing characteristics, and so it may come across differently to different people.
Yeah. RJD, do you have any more info on the cold slab stuff? Because the only thing I could find was like a paragraph in a paper. So I couldn't even, they didn't even source their own data.
Let me see whether or not, I think we discussed it in Rocks. If you don't have our book, you should get it.
I just linked something.
More textbooks.
I just linked an article about
my little itty bitty book that I wrote with Jackson.
Ah, okay, I found it. Jesus, yeah, a little bit. Right, yeah. Oh, an AGU team of Dutch. Okay.
I'm trying to find it, whether I got it in there. I'd have to open up the text in that. Maybe I can find it in there. There was a major technical paper that's the one that Clary was relying on. And that's the only one, by the way, that's been discussed in the creationism thing. And he's repeated it in subsequent postings there at ICR. But there was some background side material. Yeah, I better just pull up the bloody document and see if I can find it that way. Yep, I don't see anything in the index on it.
So I'm being blocked from digging into this paper much. Does the paper try to talk about the temp, or is that like an isotherm? Because to me it looked like an isotherm, like you wouldn't expect the oceanic plate to start to melt until a certain temperature is what I found. Do you know anything about that?
Well, it had to do with particular crystals that have particular molting.
Yeah.
They retain heat in different ways than the rock around it, and that's why they remain as a whole big
that's
blob.
why I assumed when I looked at it too. You know, it's one of those things where creationists assume there's an issue without there needing to be assumed an issue. And that's the way I took it. I didn't know if that was correct or not.
Yeah, well, that's what funky. Do you get like the Institute for Creation Research Acts and Facts?
You have to repeat that, JD.
It's available open access on their website, and basically they're reprising every claim that pops up. Okay, let's see.
Can you guys still hear my wash machine?
Very much.
Yeah.
Really? What the hell? I'm probably gonna have to let everybody else talk and stay muted.
I'm having an issue on my end too with some random windows popping up. So you're not alone in computer issues. Don't feel bad.
Audio is really distorted too at the same time. I don't know what the hell it is.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It is StreamYard.
Well, I think my evolution hour went well. I was able to at least put some of them little adverts and stuff on. Figured out how to make it do sound. The world should stop when I'm doing my show at 7 o'clock. Haven't you got that through your head? Waiting for my file to open up here. The disadvantage of having really large document files. My reference bibliography is like 3,000 cold slab in there.
I think this will help when I. Dang it.
Mentioned in volume 1. It must be going to be volume 2. Buried somewhere down in my notes in there. Okie doke. Let's see whether I can at least find the carry. In fact, I'll probably have to hunt around and find it there. Yeah, let's see. Okay. The Calari piece is from 2018. Cold slabs indicate recent global flood. And that's available online.
I think I read that.
And then it was alluding to a recent thing. And there's an actual earlier paper. Let me put the why cold slabs stagnate in a transition zone from 2015. I'll put these in Geology magazine, and it may be available full text somewhere in there. That's the one that actually explained the details of it. So what Clary was doing was riffing off new work that alluded to this earlier work, and Clary conveniently doesn't mention any of that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, thanks to the.
And that's why the major cottage industry, when dealing with a creationist, is to try to figure out what they're leaving out.
Yep.
Errors of commission are relatively rare in creationism. Ones where they actually make a actual technical goof. That it's not as common as you would think. It's usually misrepresenting material that relates to leaving stuff out, like the selective quotation, and in this case, leaving out the relevant details about why cold slabs do what they do.
Yeah, you pose the problem, but then you fail to address anything beyond posing it. Exactly.
Yeah, and I since I measure it in my work, I can tell you with a smug certainty that anti-evolutionists miss 90% of the data field.
Yeah. Oh, you got that.
Not have to guess. I'm measuring. Yeah, Ringwood. I think we'll do that. Yeah, we'll put that in book one because there's a lot of little buzzword issues that pop up, and the other thing that is very insidious. Steve Bauman mentioned it. Is the
So can you
creationists
carry
will
it through
use
the washing
specialized
machine now?
terminology.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, and that way, when people Google it, they'll get the creationist discussion, but not the scientific stuff because the scientists don't use those terms.
Yep.
Polystrate fossils, for example.
Yeah, I have that issue a lot when I talk geology with people, and they'll be bringing up phrases I'm not familiar with, and then they attack me as if I should have, like in intro geology. Obviously, we've talked about drop stones. No, I wouldn't have. Drop stones aren't a thing you cover in rocks for jocks. I mean. But apparently I don't know geology because I don't know this single phrase that you have latched onto as if it's important. It's ridiculous.
Now, I proceed from the direction of if they are presenting a creationist argument, I want to know what creationist they're drawing on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, ask the killer question, which will shut them up in a hurry. Have you ever fact-checked what they claim?
Yeah, it all usually
point.
boils down to reading very abbreviated articles on topics and then claiming yourself a master in the subject because of that. Yeah. Then you never get off Google to do your research, not going out in the field and actually digging the rocks.
As Potholer calls them.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, good.
And I kind of maneuver around that. One of the ways I'll put it says, "Oh, gee, where is your wonderful, groundbreaking monograph that you're never going to write, where you have persuaded the scientists that they're wrong and you're right?"
Yep. What's that? Mary Schweitzer, right? She got all pissed when creationists took her work and transmogrified it into some proof of. Yeah, exactly.
And of course, then you have the wacky case. We're going to be discussing it more in Rocks 2 about Armitage's alleged Triceratops horn.
Yep.
Where supposedly he was finding soft tissue in that, and that itself was rather problematic. But the other issue is we're not at all sure that it's a Triceratops horn.
Yep.
That it's more likely one of the extinct bisons that had exactly that size and shape, and they're known in that area. And I think that there are an awful lot of people around that make a very good case that he just misidentified the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and on that point, you have this whole microcosm of you think this one thing disproves the old Earth form, but you finding one example poses a bigger issue for the flood because this Triceratops horn happens to have soft tissue. Well, why doesn't every Triceratops horn have soft tissue? Wouldn't that be the case if it was 6,000 years ago?
Yeah. And also the volume involved. Everybody that brings up this subject should be asked how much tissue, because they really, I think in their heads, they think that you've got this great big slab of meat, like you would be picking it up at the grocery store with all of this tissue and stuff, when in fact, these are incredibly tiny microscopic fragments inside of other bones that have managed to get preserved enough that have left bits and pieces of them that you can actually pay attention to. But it's stuff that you see with a microscope.
Post-process too. You got to work on the sample.
Which you'd expect to see if everything was only a few thousand years old.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you have the conversation about the water.
And then, of course, we have the
same
ultimate
exact conversation. I know these. It's the.
Or as Kent Hovind would say, the water.
Yep. No, it's the same song.
Did you see my debate with Kent Hovind?
I've heard about it. I haven't actually seen it. No, I'm sure it was a train wreck.
Yeah, it was fun. I called him a bottom feeder, and I was documenting how he had stolen material from Harun Yahya, the Islamic creationist, just lock, stock, and barrel, paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, the whole posting.
Yep.
And he did not take kindly to that as well. And nor, if you've ever seen a Kent Hovind debate, he has a set format that. He had his little PowerPoint all set up, and it always ends with come to Jesus and all that. It's a religious conversion thing.
Yep.
I so derailed him. He never used his PowerPoint, and he never got to his come to Jesus part.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's. I feel like when I'm talking to,
Now, let me see if I can bring the. I'll
I feel
put
like
the
I'm
link
talking
up
to a
that
chat bot
in
because
the chat
they
there.
always repeat the same phrases.
Yes, and for some strange reason, he's never wanted to debate me again.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is what it is.
In fact, that's my problem. Oh yeah, their name for truth is archetypal in that he's really good at copying what other people say, and he gets the jargon down. But as soon as you ask him, and hopefully Walker will have done this in his debate in the back and forth, is to something outside of the box, and he won't be able to do it because he debate. I had well, it's not bad, 14,000 views so far. And I'll put the link in there in the private chat.
Yeah, I brought standing down into some details on
an
LEO.
analysis of the Harun Yahya episode with Hovind, just like a couple weeks earlier.
Gotcha. Thanks for the link.
The my favorite go-to example for genetics are the ALUs, the retrotransposons, because they're like 10% of us, 1.4 million. They're relatively short retrotransposons. I think they're only like 8 or 9 nucleotides long or something. So they're quite small. And they have functionally I think it's a little bigger than that, like 50. At any rate, they have functionally a copy me signal that says copy me. And so once it's engaged inside of the genome by whatever means coming in through a bug bite or some such thing from another organism, it just starts replicating and replicating and replicating. And it can do it anywhere in the genome. And but it doesn't do anything wrong because it doesn't have a README signal. So it's just basically edited out most of the time, even though it's accumulating. But once in a while, it will mutate and turn that into a start code. Case, no, that's not good.
Can you guys hear me right now?
In just about any protein and screw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? You're fine.
Can you guys hear me?
And no washing machine sound.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, we can.
I unplugged my
there
microphone.
was a certain background beach sound in that, but yeah.
Yeah, I unplugged my microphone and went over to my Mac and then went back again and it went away. So apparently, I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, so is the debate still going on over there, Leo?
It was like 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, it looks like it's still happening. Erica's talking, so hopefully, are they wrapping up?
I don't know.
I would have liked to have watched the thing, but I
hour.
had my evolution hour to do, so we had to.
Over the last half an hour, I was flipping back and forth between that debate and a Vosh stream.
Oh.
Apparently, the Trump campaign has filed a lawsuit.
Walker was a little
recount in
nervous.
Georgia.
Oh yeah, they're doing that. They'll do it in Michigan. They'll try to pick up. Georgia's kind of irrelevant because at the moment he's ahead anyway, and so unless it flips in Metro and Atlanta, I mean, sheesh.
He's down by like 35.
Both that and South Carolina, they're only like.
I think RJ has a
they're
delay.
Very tight, and anyway,
I'm trying to gauge it.
Oh yeah,
RJ, I think you have a pretty bad delay.
We're hoping that Nevada comes through. It always happens on StreamYard. I'm in another time zone. I think there it's all time dilation.
So I do have a question for RJ.
Like I'm on the
how
moon.
do you feel about Arizona flipping red? Do you think that's going to happen? There's some people who are saying it might. Most people are saying it's not likely, but it could.
It's way too far away.
Well, there's only 8,000 votes difference, but Biden's in the lead. Where the reason why it may not happen is if they're looking at where the polling precincts typically are. I mean, it all depends on what happens when they start pulling in the Metropolitan Las Vegas thing. And though that won't be occurring, I guess, until tomorrow. So it's sounding like there's not exactly a doom and gloom feeling in the Democratic camp about Nevada staying as in the Biden column. And in which case, he's president because that's 270.
Did I say Nevada? Because if I did, I totally meant Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona. You said Arizona.
Did I say Arizona?
Arizona. I would be surprised if it flipped.
It's 3%. He's almost.
Yeah, Arizona would be a surprising thing. The big vote in metropolitan. It's for the same reason why if they were thinking like say Washington State going to go for Trump, it would be delusional because there's huge blocks of Trump supporters. Spokane is largely a conservative district, but most of the people in the SeaTac corridor, that's most of the state, and they ain't the same. And so Tucson and Phoenix and all that. It would be quite a surprise on that front.
Both of
and
those,
we're still not sure about some of these other little side states.
Mm-hmm. I know Maricopa County is the big one, but I have heard some people say that could be a decent amount of Trump votes, mail-in votes that come in from Maricopa. But I've heard other people say that yes, but it won't be enough to put him in the lead, that he might narrow Biden's lead, but that Biden is still expected to win the state.
Yeah. And again, that's why I'm not breaking out the champagne yet. But nonetheless, I'm not in a state of despair because it's been a constant encroachment of where Biden, when he came out so calmly yesterday and said, we think we've got a good track. And then, of course, you were getting the God King Emperor Donald the Infallible coming out on his thing announcing, well, we've won, and are going, no, Donnie, that's not quite true.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe last night he actually said that counting the votes.
So it was a doctor on Twitter.
Oh, RJ, you walked on me. Counting the votes was stealing the election.
I literally just had a friend on Twitter or on Facebook say that he does not believe that all legitimately casted votes should be counted. He literally said that. He literally said that he does not believe that should be the case. And he said it's like saying that, well, we'll finish the game of Monopoly tomorrow. And I'm like, I know people who have literally done that, who have been like playing Monopoly for 2 hours and it said, you know what? Let's leave it where it is. We'll come back and finish it tomorrow. Like, so your analogy doesn't work because I know people who have literally paused the Monopoly game amongst other like board games and whatnot that can take a long time and resumed them the next day.
The debate ended, by the way.
I was running mental simulations in my head this morning before I got up about what might happen either in a second Trump term or in a post-Trump period and what he was going to be doing in relation to the Republican Party and his future things, like what countries lack an extradition treaty where he might skedaddle to.
He'll go to Russia.
And all of these little potential circumstances.
Because let's be honest here, Putin.
I actually don't think he would. I think Saudi Arabia, I think, is a better bet because of the Jared connections on there, and they've got better hotels.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I would love for Dan to come in and tell me how he thinks.
But all depends on whether they've got an extradition treaty. You do realize the gigantic set of potholes that Trump is facing in the next 4 or 5 years.
God,
$800 million of his $1.1 billion debt comes due in the next 4 years.
Yep.
Isn't that sweet?
Yeah. So, does Dan know something about Pennsylvania?
There's very good possibility that there is. At the moment, it was just a toss-up. Again, if Nevada stays Biden, it doesn't matter what happens in Pennsylvania, which is so delightful. True. All of that effort of Rudy Giuliani crawling out of his vampire crypt, ending on Pennsylvania with all of their little lawyers trying to stir it up, it won't matter what happens.
Exactly. David, you might not go to jail after all.
Yeah, it's going to be funky stuff.
Yeah, there was a running joke.
Yeah,
there was a running joke between us in the emails. I was planning on going to a protest where there was a good chance of me getting arrested, but that's probably not going to be happening But
oh, really?
yeah, so that's what. So that was what the joke was referring to.
Oh. Yeah, we made some comments on our morning stream that I could be arrested for probably.
Yeah, but the one thing I wanted to point out is that the fact that Trump has already filed a recount lawsuit in Georgia indicates that him and his team are very nervous.
Yeah, well, I'm sticking in
about
truth,
where they're
that's
at.
the one that was.
It wouldn't surprise me if Biden ended up taking the lead by under 10,000, which would give grounds for a legal recount since it would be under 10,000. And I don't know if that will happen. I think what the Trump campaign is really doing is kind of just setting up a legal wall of protection just in case that does. They've already got the lawsuit filed and they can get right on the recount. But
has Trump just considered just giving it up? I mean, Jesus Christ.
No, that won't happen. Even when Trump actually loses, what will happen is he will never concede. He will leave the White House because he doesn't want to make a scene because he knows that's going to damage his image. But he will just consistently deride this election as being fraudulent and it was rigged against him and everything like that. That's what it's going to be. And that's all assuming that Biden does.
I am absolutely certain that if he does definitely lose, he's not the president-elect, he will skip town before the inauguration. He will not be humiliated by having to sit there smiling or just looking stern or while Biden is inaugurated. His personality is so needy and narcissistic that to be not the center of attention and to have been visibly watching while the bigger parades and bigger crowds, even with social distancing, come by. Oh no, he can't stand that.
Yeah. You know what?
He's too much of a wuss.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing is think about the future. Presidents together. I can't see Trump ever being invited to any of those things, and I think he may very well end up the first president when he does die decades down the road. That he'll be the first president in recent times who will not be given a state funeral and a lion state in the Congress, in Congress Hall.
I don't know if it's going to be decades. Have you looked at his
because he's just that disgusting.
Well, you got to remember he's rich.
Well, he's apparently comes from a family that lives fairly long, and I think he apparently has quite a good constitution. He managed to weather COVID quite fine. I personally want him to have a long life of deteriorating financial decline, so that he reaches the stage where he's had his final bankruptcy. He never recovers from it. He's had to sell Trump Tower. He's had to sell Mar-a-Lago.
You hear me typing?
Barely.
Oh, good. So somebody told me I type aggressively.
Oh yeah, I type aggressively.
Yeah,
I type about 90 words per minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm exhausted. I'm going to.
Well, I zip along.
Before you go, you need to wait.
I'm not a touch typer.
Hold on. What was that?
I said before you go, you need to wait for me to do this math real quick. Just hold on. Just give me about 30 seconds.
Okay.
A glass long is good. Yeah, everybody's exhausted tonight. I don't even. Walker hasn't even shown up.
Man, that's the difference in Georgia right now with 2% left, and I think close to about 60 to 80,000 votes left to count.
Yep, Georgia. I would laugh my ass off if Georgia goes blue.
I don't think it will. I know it sounds pessimistic. I don't.
And what state is that?
Blue, but it's going to be Georgia. It's going to be close.
Here's my brief analysis of what I think is happening. Is that we're seeing what I think
it would be hilarious if it did.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. What I'm seeing here is a geomagnetic reversal in the American politics, where the Rust Belt is becoming red and the Southern Sun Belt is becoming blue. That's what I'm seeing.
Well, it wouldn't be surprising, especially with how blue Florida was for the period that it was, and same with Texas. I mean, they flipped. But Trump didn't have the big leads that Republicans usually carry, especially in Texas. I mean, it's usually 10, 12 plus points.
Well, remember, in 100 years, a third of Florida will be underwater.
Yeah. Especially if it keeps going red.
Yeah, in 10 years, I wouldn't be
surprised.
surprised.
Don't buy any real estate in Florida.
Yeah.
Well,
And
Ben
10 years,
Shapiro says you can just sell it off, you know.
I would not be surprised if Texas goes blue in the next 10 or 15 years. It's just
it'll be less than that, I think.
It's a demographics game. It's just a game of changing demographics. The Republicans are fighting dirty because they know they're losing. It's just a matter of the demographics.
I think that if in 2024 we get somebody that's younger than Bernie and is a person
Their
of color,
gerrymandering is
they will be able to carry
down.
they will be able to carry the Latino vote in Texas, and I can see in 2024 if that happens.
Like somebody younger than me.
Going blue.
I like AOC. I hope AOC runs.
I don't think she'd run for president. That's too much. She's even now expressed she doesn't plan on staying in politics her whole life. I bet she'll do anywhere between 8
but
and
Don
12 years.
Jr. is going to be running in 2024.
That way, somebody else in the Trump family is going to try running in 2024.
Yeah, I think if Biden wins, I think Donald Trump is going to probably try and run again in 2024 and have a rematch. But
I don't think Biden will run for re-election.
No, he won't. I think I would not be surprised if he doesn't make it past his first term in office. He's not going to have a whole term. I know.
I'm okay with Kamala Harris.
I'd probably hand it over to Harris.
Yeah, Harris would be fine. Do a good job.
She was my first choice.
Yeah,
wasn't
she'd be
troublesome on it.
But at any rate,
at least we won't have the nutball as president anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm off to bed. Good night, guys. I'm exhausted.
All right. Peace out.
Good night, David.
Good night.
God damn, I cannot believe fucking Georgia.
Oh, well, but politics are full of strange things. Yeah.
What happened to Walker?
He said give him a few minutes to just take a breather, and then he's going to hop in.
Could be exhausted.
Well, it was squeaky. There were so many states in there that where the difference between the two candidates was less than the third-party candidates, the minor ones knocking around.
Oh,
and if they were functionally their separate votes would have meant the difference between a state going one direction and another.
Yep. In Wisconsin, Joe Jorgensen is easily the reason that Trump did not carry that state. When I saw that, I started laughing. I was like, oh, that is Joe Jorgensen. She's based. I was like, pog, man, which means surprised or excited.
So Nicholas is doing some kind of confession over on Smokey's channel tonight.
Let me see what Vosh is talking about, and if it's interesting, if it's not.
Yeah, that Nicholas thing was interesting.
Thank you for explaining the terminology for the old people.
Is like the Christian contingent like imploding on itself? It's been so much infighting recently.
I know.
You want to know who it stems from?
Smokey.
Yep. It's because he's such a vitriolic. The best word to describe him is he's just a douchebag. Like, that's what he is. He's that kid in school who nobody gets along with because all he does is just hurl insults at anybody who disagrees with him on the smallest fucking thing. He's just that typical douchebag. That's all he is. He's just a douche.
Yeah, he really threw a wrench in the whole Christian community. Mm-hmm. Pretty amazing. It's kind of fun to watch.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, when he was going after Brett Keane.
Yeah, that'll be another amusing thing to see with post Trump years, as to how many evangelicals just pretend they never knew him and move on. Now that they got their judges from him, they could care less.
Do you guys think that Melania will divorce Donald?
Yeah, I knew him, because it's just like Donald Trump constantly disowning people. I never knew him.
So it's standing doing a rescue after show tonight. Rescue mission.
I asked if you think that.
Of course, they'll go 12 hours on.
Yeah.
If Melania Trump will divorce Donald if he loses.
Oh, that's what she's been waiting to do all of this time. The funky part of it is that she apparently made an agreement with hubby to come to move to the White House, that it would put little Barron at the top of the list when it comes to the heirs. Mm-hmm. And what's so funky about the future of the Trumps, they seem to be the embodiment of Adam's family virtues. They're all smiling at each other. But the fact that if Trump sinks in presidency, this first time he would do that with adult heirs, a whole pile of adult heirs, as well as, let's face it, Melania is part Lady Macbeth, part Medea. I mean, she is a tough, nasty cookie. And so I would love to, that's one of the reasons why I want to live a long time. I want to see the vicious lawyering as all of the kids come out and they're carve up and say, Daddy is senile and senile dementia, and we need to get the money before Deutsche Bank can get it.
Where's Erica at, Speed?
I don't know where she is. I think
have you ever email her? Have you ever seen the Magnificent Ambersons, the old Orson Welles movie?
I don't think so. I definitely haven't. No.
What is the name of it?
But have you ever the image that I have in mind for Trump, his comeuppance, the Magnificent Ambersons? It was the movie that Orson Welles made after Citizen Kane, and it was screwed up by RKO, who modified it after he was finished with it. It's one of the great vandalism of films. And we know what the original plot was, but basically the last half hour of the movie is lost forever.
Oh God!
But even without that, the parts that you can see, but it's about a wealthy but stupid and arrogant family that just falls apart over time, and they get their comeuppance. They're arrogant, and I want that to happen to the Trumps. Pure Magnificent Ambersons. The first hour and a half of it is just stunning. It's pacing and structure to it. And he went off to do a documentary on South America, and RKO was frustrated with how artsy his stuff was. So they pulled the plug on the project and took the film and re-edited it without his permission. So they lopped off the last part of the movie where it was really depressing, because the family just in this, they all come to bad ends. And it's a real downer of a story. And they made a kind of semi-happy ending for it with some of the cast members, all without his permission. And it's like an instant gear shift clunk as you move from the stuff to the stuff that was added on arcade.
Is the original available?
Sorry, venture down film lane, but nevertheless, it's quite something. Oh yeah, it's made a Criterion, I know, has an edition on it. It was made in like 1942, I think it came out. It had an awful lot of the same people that were in Citizen Kane, Joseph Cotten and others. And it in fact, you can, if you've ever seen The Curse of the Cat People, Cat People movie, the first one of the Cat People series at RKO, the boarding house in that is actually the Amberson mansion, the leftover filming the Magnificent Ambersons. It was reused as a set piece because it was so magnificent, beautiful interior, that they just used it as this boarding house that appears in that story. Which, by the way, Cat People Val Luton made low-budget horror flicks at RKO that were actually sophisticated art movies. And he would slide these things under the RKO people because they would have lurid titles and they were all about supernatural stuff, but they're brilliant films. They have an enormous impact, and they're regarded as absolute classics. But they always made money, so he could make these artsy movies that Orson Welles couldn't because they made money. Thank you. They were low budget. They made money. Couldn't argue with him. But yeah, Robert Wise co-directed, I think, or directed Cat People. That was when he was just getting his fledgling career as a director. He was a film editor on Citizen Kane, and then he was moving into directing, and then kind of got into a bigger time when he made Day the Earth Stood Still over at Fox in '51, and went on to do little teeny movies you may have heard of, like The Sound of Music and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And
wow.
So there we go. More RJ goes down film memory lane.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know what Agnostic Pegamom is trying to say. She said, Sunflower was still batching about his BS tirade till 5 he 3 ND of Nox stream. Until the end? What tirade was he on? That would have been interesting.
Here's the Walker.
If you ever can translate that into English, let us know.
Holy shit, did you do a good job?
Hey, the Walker.
I did well. I could tell.
How did you do?
in Strangling the Truths, 'cause that's what I call him now, because that's what he does. He strangles the truth. In his rebuttal, I could kind of see just in the tone and how he when he's kind of doing what I'm doing now, trying to get the words out. And I was just like, you know what? I got to be honest here. It's not too often I see strangling the truth do that, where he's kind of starting to stumble a bit over his words, and
he started making shit up.
Literally, he just was polling. You were, and when you said, "I'm sorry, I choked on my Powerade like halfway through that," or what?
Oh no, that wasn't because I was laughing at him. It was propelled, but no, it was just because I was drinking water and I legitimately started choking.
Because you made it sound like you were like when he said something. I
just breathed it in. Watch the debate or the Q&A, Walker, but how did you feel you did on the Q&A? Were you comfortable in it?
I didn't get to answer too much. It was mostly just Mr. Wilford constantly going after standing.
Yeah, it was.
Good night, Rational Pierces. But I felt like the Q&A, the parts I needed to do well, I did well on.
Mr. Wilford was in here, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
There was one point where, my favorite part of the Q&A, it still stands out as a highlight, is when he was like talking about the broken Neanderthal genes, because we kept asking him because he needs data, and he said like, oh well, there's this gene that prevents UV radiation that's found in Neanderthals and low levels in modern humans. And
I didn't hear that part.
Oh well, yeah. So it basically does the opposite. It prevented solar radiation from damaging DNA in Neanderthals. Like it's just the opposite of what he said. He directly contradicted himself. Oh, and there was that really weird part where he was saying that 2 substitution mutations couldn't happen and completely restructure a protein.
What was he talking about?
Oh shit, guys!
I was very confused with that part. I'll be honest.
I think he was trying to make the case.
If he says that.
I think he was trying to make the case that Neanderthals didn't have language, and why would only 2 amino acids account for that? I'm not sure. I think that's where he was going. But do we have any evidence that they didn't have a language?
Yeah, which
I mean, they probably
in fact, I would be gobsmacked. I think that any of the hominids that are making fairly sophisticated tools, so certainly by the time we have Homo erectus, are functionally having things that are in the language department. And of course, I don't think that ending will within 1,000 miles of any of the cognitive literature on the evolution of language, because it doesn't show up in the creationist T copies.
But FOXP2 it's a transcription.
So he has nothing to work off of.
It's a transcription factor, so it could
it's an old mammal gene. It's not per se.
Well, have you all heard about the
FOXP2 isn't even per se a language gene. It's a structural gene, but it's been co-opted and is now utilized in the brain for language structure, as well as its original function. There's formula in the mammals, mice, and all the rest. The interesting things has to do with the architecture in the brain that produce grammatical language, the nouns, verbs, and word connection things. And they're just now getting to the stage where they can MRI enough to be able to tease apart all that neat little nonlinear system that goes on. But again, in my TIP project, I track how much of that material is covered by creationists and across the board, including intelligent design. Cognitive literature is almost completely invisible in anti-evolutionism.
Hey, I gotta go to bed.
So poor little secondary source addict standing ain't got nobody to copy. So it's just
ask Walker a question.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
You got a YouTube or Twitter?
Standing is like,
I have both.
Cat. He's just
could you link them someplace? Because I tried just typing that just of walking fish and it gave me nothing.
Oh, really? Darn, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
I'll put it in chat for you right now.
What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Thanks. And my Twitter's linked in my channel and stuff.
Yeah, same here. All right. Good debate. Enjoyed it. You guys punched each other pretty well. So look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. So
I'm gonna head out, but I'll hit that up in the chat. You got yourself a sub, so congratulations.
all right, thanks. Well, you have a good night, my dude.
You got it in
Take care.
chat.
Peace out.
Yeah, now you have your baptism of fire, and any subsequent debates you do will be easier and easier because you've hit your belt to know how to deal with it. But boy, it's sad when you only have a limited amount of Q&A in there, because that's a gold mine for endgame. I've been at my happiest when I have a debate where the opening statements are as small as possible and the interactions and Q&As are as big as possible.
Yeah, that was actually something I was kind of disappointed about, how my my opening statement kind of got screwed up.
Were there any aspects that you felt?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
RJ, you're kind of behind.
Yeah, he's got about a 6 to 7
That's the one
second
thing
delay,
that
so.
as a talking head, I know. I mean, I'm on the moon. You're getting a 2-second delay on everything. But the thing is that not using a PowerPoint means I can never have technical difficulties like that. So I'm just presenting a narrative line, and that means also I can do it anywhere. That's one advantage. Yeah, a narrative line means that if you're meeting somebody in person or in any venue whatsoever, you don't have to drag out the images or the PowerPoint. You can do it right in front of them.
Yeah. Well, I like the PowerPoint because a lot of the things I was talking about were pretty conceptual that I don't know if like the random audience in MDD has a conceptual understanding of phylogenetics. So if I start talking about bootstrap values of 100 and stuff and like specific nodes,
it was on a focused technical point, Neanderthals. Do you feel that Standing at least tried to stay close to the topic?
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job on staying on topic. I think there were times he wanted to get to like out of Africa and mitochondrial diversity and like molecular clocks and stuff.
But I liked how you were keeping him on topic, where you would say something like, I'd really rather not talk about that. This is kind of where our debate is centered, and that's one of the things with creationists, and I'm sure RJ would agree with this wholeheartedly, is that you've got to keep them on that topic, or they'll just gish gallop their way all the fucking way to Timbuktu and back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I thought for the Mr. Batman, where the topic never shows up at all.
Yeah, the topic is dinosaurs, and he's talking about like, oh, well, you can't explain how the complexity arose.
Well, sir, how do you explain how pedophilia is wrong?
And I would every time I asked him about a dinosaur, he said, I don't know anything about that.
He said he didn't know what a ceratopsid was.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't.
I mean, this is like I think didn't you like a line, Leo, where I said that it was like somebody that can't tell the difference between how was the example? Oh yeah, a bicycle and an F-15.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that was funny. It was a good analogy though. I liked it.
It was interesting that he threw in that thing about
every
2%.
little kid can tell the difference between these dinosaurs.
Yeah.
2% of the DNA basically in some people is like Neanderthal, or they find Neanderthal DNA in us, and he was throwing that in to show that we had,
and it varies from one
common ancestry,
to another. And virtually nothing in Africa because there's been so little admixture going on.
Stuttering for truth.
And same thing I think with Oceania and the Americas.
Yeah. Well,
I've yet to see a creation deal with the Americas and to account for the humans and the food crops. Remember, we've got the damn food crops. It's not just the people coming over, killing woolly mammoths and doing all this stuff and using atlatls and all this material, bows and arrows. It's the fact that we've got corn and potatoes and tomatoes and all these specialized food crops. How did they get there from Ararat? Where did they come from?
Well, Jensen believes that there are two different waves that came over, and one of them they got chased over by the Romans in 500 AD.
Oh, Jesus fuck, guys. The Maricona County office that's counting the ballots is closed because due to concerns about unrest from sizable crowds protesting vote counting per CNN. This is what Trump wanted. This is. Everybody says, "Oh, I think it's a little extreme to call Trump a fascist." You're stupid. This is what fascism looks like. This is how you get fascism out of a democracy.
Yeah. I don't know. It was nice to get my mind off of the election for a couple hours.
I bet.
Yeah.
This is in Nevada?
Think about that. That's why I write all
County, Arizona.
Do stuff where I can escape to another world.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So
you live in exciting times, kids.
Yeah.
Very true.
Us old people have never seen shit like this happen in our lives. I mean,
we've also never had a candidate like Donald Trump.
No, even the tumult during the Nixon years in the Vietnam War, there was an awful lot of strife and struggle, and there were actually big riots and stuff. But
there's nothing.
I never had a sense of existential dread, like I do now.
At 89% reporting, or in Pennsylvania, Biden closes the gap to 164K. 95% reporting in Georgia, he closes at 28K.
Wow.
Dude, if Georgia fucking flips blue.
It's going to be funky to see what's going on.
Yep. If Georgia flips blue, this is what I'll say. If Georgia flips blue, me and Amelia Clark will literally actually get married. I'm just gonna put it out there right now.
Okay.
If Georgia flips blue, me and her will actually get married. But I doubt.
Do you think she has to agree to that, or
no? It doesn't matter. It's happening.
No, this is some Neanderthal level.
Well, remember, there's been such a change in the dynamics. There's still rural areas that are back in 1870, but when I visited Atlanta 40 years ago, you would hear almost no sign of a Southern accent anywhere in the metropolitan area. It was all that generic Western style. But you might finally, in fact, I think it was only in the bus station where I bumped into somebody who actually had kind of a Southern accent, and she would say, "Excuse me, I'll speak at you in a a moment."
Same thing.
And I go, what is going on? But most of the places are very generic metropolitan because it's a big metropolitan area. And it probably is that Atlanta area that would be giving the place to Biden if it does flip.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are going to continue counting votes.
Same even with Spokane area, very rural.
In Fulton County, Georgia, but the staff that reports those to the account will be sent home. So they will continue counting votes in Fulton County, Georgia until they're counted, all the way into the night until they're counted, but we won't get any reports on those numbers until tomorrow. So we won't know if Georgia
and Nevada wasn't going to be reporting until tomorrow anyway. So
yep.
So Thursday it'll either be a surprise or a surprise.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be one of the two. Let's hope it's not. I don't know which surprise he was making the one for Trump, but let's hope it's not that one.
I think the Capitol one was the one for Trump.
Well, if Nevada polls, it's 270. So there you go. And in which case, all of that fuss and bother over Pennsylvania, Georgia, and the only place that actually would matter would be Michigan, because Michigan has already been counted in the Biden column. And if they can dislodge that, that would pull the total back down. But it's understandable that somebody who's completely devoid of ethics and integrity, like Rudy Giuliani and Trump, would do this.
He's up by 2.5 points in Michigan with 99% reporting. Michigan's there. It's there. It's Biden.
Well, remember, Mr. Trump has problems with things like numbers when it comes to addition, like whether you run a gambling casino successfully or not.
Yeah.
In fact, doing the numbers, I don't think Donald Trump has made a dime in his life.
How the hell
He's
can
borrowed
you
it
lose
all
money
and
on a
inherited it?
casino?
Exactly. Oh yeah. I mean, how bad of a businessman do you need to be to lose money on gambling casinos?
What'd you find, Leo?
So
what's
Joe
happening,
Biden,
Leo?
Joe Biden's whittled away Trump's lead by another 3,000 votes roughly in Georgia. Dude, I'm starting to wonder, man, will Georgia actually fucking go blue?
Yeah.
Holy
It would be.
shit.
It would be It would be the revenge of Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
So I grew up right next to the Georgia state line and the Florida state line. And it's to me, it's weird that Georgia's more likely to flip than Florida.
Holy
like
shit.
having
Dude, I
substantial
saw
amount
a
of times
meme.
in both states.
I saw a meme, and it
Well,
was like
with Florida, it was that Castro, the anti-Castro Latino vote. Trump was able to exploit their fears of socialism on a gigantic scale, and that means that Latinos in other places aren't the same dynamic as in Dade County.
Exactly.
Yeah, Joe Biden, the socialist. How terrifying.
Bearing in
only
mind
he
that in
was.
50 years it'll be underwater.
Yeah, I saw a meme on the internet where it was it had like the one scene, I can't remember, I think it's the first Toy Story, but I might be wrong on that, where Buzz is flying with Woody and he's talking like, oh, we're gonna miss, and then Buzz says, well, we're not aiming for that. It over Buzz's face was a picture of Joe Biden. It says, well, it looks like we're not gonna hit Florida, and then the bottom one says, we're not aiming for Florida, and then below that it showed Florida red but Georgia blue, and I was like, oh fuck.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the one where they were leaping for the moving truck that had all the little stuff in it.
Yep.
So
what do we got here?
What is 2% of 5 million? That's about 100,000, right?
2% of 5 million.
So I mean, he can still take Georgia. Georgia is.
If he keeps cutting Trump's lead like he is,
yeah,
he'll probably take Georgia. Like I said,
that's one of the reasons why
3,000 and 6,000 votes.
The various analysts that know about the polling and how the states were going, even yesterday, they were saying, yes, most of the state is red. But if you look at how well Biden was performing in some of these little bellwether areas where there are huge numbers of Democrats, because that's where a lot of people live, that could theoretically swamp the votes in the rest of the state.
Yep. Georgia is more likely to turn blue, at least right now, than Pennsylvania, at least right now.
Yeah,
that's fucking wild, man.
This bubble graph, Georgia has.
Well, Pennsylvania it has a wide range. Remember, if you're down in the Gettysburg area, you're functionally in like the South. That the cultural milieu of that's very different than up in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia.
They call it Pentucky.
Pentucky. They're not wrong.
Yeah,
Georgia is sliding over.
But they're saying that the Ossoff,
and of course,
whoever Ossoff
although
is
I have
running
been to Philadelphia in the 20th century, I know it basically from the 19th.
I've been told, I don't know the validity of this statement, but like apparently like Kentucky has a higher density of Confederate flags than like the actual Southeast. But I don't know if that's like
it
a
wouldn't
legitimate
surprise
thing.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing people from Iowa that are flying, like born and raised in Iowa, flying Confederate flags. I'm just like, God, you're dumb. You like literally
just
you
by
are
the
dumb.
diet. If you're in a hotel in Gettysburg, you're getting Southern food. You're getting grits.
Oh yeah,
and all of that in the breakfast menu. It's not like what you would be getting in New Jersey or out here in civilization in Washington.
Yeah.
As opposed to New Jersey.
To show you how it is from when I was growing up here in Spokane, for me, anything east of the Rocky Mountains was the East. So if somebody is in Ohio, that's East. That's the East.
Oh my gosh. So basically it's just like Washington, Oregon, and California that are not East.
Yeah, we're in our own little world over in here. We ironically, this goes way back. One of the weirdest things I ever heard was on Jack Parr, who used to be on the Tonight Show back in the 1960s before Johnny Carson. And he shocked the daylights out of me one night. I was like 8 years old or so, when he was saying that the most accurate or standard American English is spoken in Washington State. And I go, oh, okay. Well, that makes it easy for me then.
Really?
And it's a very standardized flat bit where the language that I'm speaking is literally intelligible everywhere. Whereas if you get into dialects, you can start hearing the twangs in Boston and Southern dialects and all the rest, Minnesota, that start deviating from that standardized model. Well, Washington was doing it. And it's probably because we've been so far away from so many of the dynamics. We're a relatively recent state. Spokane wasn't even founded until 1874. That it's just have a different structure to it than all of that baggage in the barbarian East.
Yeah. Honestly, guys, my stomach is hurting really bad. I think it's from too much creationism in one night, so I think I'm going to go lay down.
Yeah. Walker, I'm going to report your debate.
Do you have a spare body available in your cryo tank?
Walker, I'm reporting your debate to YouTube because what you did to Standing was abuse.
Really?
That was fucking good, man.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like I said, we kept it cordial. It was a fun conversation. I feel like I did a decent job at holding him down at points that he either hasn't thought through or he uses because they sound good.
Yeah, we got to go over a few things that he came
like
up
wrestling spaghetti with Sandy because he flits around so much.
Wrestling spaghetti. Yeah. When he started to fail, he really made up a bunch of shit that we have to call him the task on.
Yeah, that is the problem with debates. It's hard to call a lot of stuff as it happens.
When he tries to improvise and try to sort of apply what he thinks he understands to a data field he's not aware of, well, it ain't going to turn out pretty.
Yeah, there was that one thing he kept asserting, like, oh, well, you have to have chimp ancestry if you want phylogenetic trees to work. And it's like, no, you don't. You really don't. You just have to choose a root. So it's whatever. I think I presented my side.
Well, yeah, and I think Standing has I know there are quite a few anti-evolutionists who don't seem to understand that when they do cladistic analyses, they also do they do often thousands of them in a go. And they're not testing out all possible trees, but they're testing out large swaths to be able to get a parsimonious take on the data field. So there can be 10, 20, 30, 50,000 simulation runs that they're going on to be able to track through different things to see which one makes better sense. And I think that too many of the anti-evolutionists think that they've like cherry picked the one little tree right there just out of the middle of nowhere rather than arrived at it by a large process of data checking.
Hey, did you see that Stanley stopped in?
Strangling the truth. How are you?
I mean, I agree. Like I said, I agree. They probably did have language, or at least like sophisticated language, because they have the grammatical structure for the FOXP2 gene. I just don't think that's
language
too out of line just because, we're only separated from them.
One of the
like
clues,
minusculely.
Again, this is another topic that doesn't come up with creationism much, is the field of paleo recreations of tool making. I think Nicholas Toth, and there's a bunch of other ones in the field, but they're the ones that actually take your obsidian flakes and they recreate tools, the basic stuff that the late Australopithecines were doing all the way down into the early Homo erectus and then into more sophisticated tools when you get closer to human beings. And from the very earliest stages, you have to conceptualize what the tool is going to look like, just as Michelangelo has to visualize the statue inside the chunk of marble. And it's difficult to imagine, given the teaching of all of these things, that they didn't have a language to be able to communicate pivotal concepts. It can't all be done by mind. So it's a circumstantial argument that as the tools have become more sophisticated, the language and teaching mechanisms that are coming along are there. Now, another thing to remember important about language is it's not hitchhiking primarily on the brain systems the primates use for vocal calls. It's primarily hitchhiking on the brain systems the primates use for gesturing. And that's why people still kind of talk with their hands. It gets connected to vocal. But I think there's an argument to be made that the very rudiments of language involve mime and gesturing rather than acoustic signals.
Yep, and having your
Sorry
hands
for
free.
putting some science in here a bit.
No science allowed.
Having your hands free
Yeah,
has
damn.
a bit to do with it. We all talk with our hands, or at least I do. Anyway, it's getting late, guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, in summary, I think I don't know. I did fairly well for a first debate.
You did not burst into flames. And Standing for Truth will probably have to do a 14-hour series explaining why you were such a fool.
You know, I haven't burst into flames yet, but it might be too early to call.
Walker, you have an awesome future in debating. You are really fucking good at it. You can pull shit up. Your memory is great. You pulled stuff up really well.
Yeah.
You did a very clear presentation. I was really impressed.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
really
I think that's
good.
honestly just I put a lot of prep work into it. Because this has been a behind the scenes thing since August, me and Standing trying to get into a room together. So
yeah, right. It started out we were going to have a conversation.
How did you find the baptism of fire training that Dan did with you?
Oh, I thought that went pretty well.
Did you publish that?
Public? No.
It was private.
No.
Yeah,
we had a training session. Basically, it was Dan Stern Cardinale. He played the critic from hell. That he was, and he channeled every
he was basically
possible anti-evolution creation argument that would be, and he would interrupt, and he would do this deliberately to be as annoying and as insufferable as possible to see how Walker could do reactions on it, and he handled himself quite nicely on it. And together, we and Colton and others were there, and Erica to fill him in so that we would give him the best ammunition that he would have available for his own arguments, so that it would make him as comfortable as possible when he got around to debating Standing for Truth. And I'm glad to hear that was full.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was useful for trying to conceptualize arguments on the fly. But me and Standing, we were respectful the whole time. We didn't interrupt each other. So the biggest time I was thrown off by something, I think, was just when I had to restart my PowerPoint.
Yeah.
That sort of I kicked me into a weird gear for my opening. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, Standing is always a pleasure.
Yeah, if I think of all of the scientists that I've seen in lectures where they're flailing over their damn PowerPoint, and you suddenly have this cluster of little people popping out of the audience to see if they can get the thing synced up and started up and all of that, this is it, and this happens in college lectures, a whole nine. This is. Yeah, you gotta live with it. You work past it.
The first hour that we were waiting for the stream to start was me, Erica, and Standing talking about Star Wars in a back room while Praise was restarting his computer and messing with OBS and all that other stuff.
Praise is such a failure at fucking production. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Standing was joking about him earlier. He's like, "Dude, you stream for 9 hours a day," and I was like,
"Yeah, you stream for 9 hours a day."
Is there a reason why the show the debate got started so late?
Yeah, it was just because there was OBS problems mostly.
Praise I am.
I don't know if I would blame him fully, but I think it was he was having legitimate computer problems and it was manifesting in OBS.
I just attribute it to demons.
Yeah, it was definitely demons.
Okay, guys, let's.
Okay. Well, kids, I will be departing. Have fun and don't accept any wooden penguins.
All right, night.
I'm going to end the broadcast.
Hold on, before you end the broadcast, everybody. Georgia, woo! We can fucking do this. Probably not. Let's hope.
I mean, even if it's 270. All right, yeah. Good night,